Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I'm going to be talking about books and series that I want to get to. If you've been watching my channel for a while now, you will know that I am a massive mood reader, but there are always series and books that I want to get to regardless, and I always try to keep them in the back of my mind. So I've compiled a list of series and books that I'm really interested in getting to. This is across all genres. This is obviously subject to change and it is obviously subject to my mood. And this is also in no priority order. But without further ado, let's jump in. So the first series that I really want to get to is the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. Now this is a very beloved series on BookTube. Everybody raves about it. I have not heard one person say anything bad about it, and I am super psyched. I believe it is influenced by East Asian mythology and history, which is a big tick from me. As many of you will know, I'm very interested in that part of the world, and I really like it when we get new cultures being represented in fantasy. So I am super psyched to read that series. If I do start it, I'll probably start reading it in Q1 because that is one of the top series that I really want to get to. But regardless of that, whether I do start it in Q1 or not, I am almost certain this is one of the few series that I will definitely get to. Then I want to pick up a sci-fi book, and that is also by an East Asian author, and that is Vagabonds by Hao Jingfang. I have been trying to get to this book so much in 2024, but have epically failed at it. I have to be in a very particular mood to read sci-fi, and I believe this book can be a little bit dense in places, but without a doubt, 2025 is going to be the year that I finally pick it up. Then I want to pick up a very beloved grimdark fantasy series that I am finally going to read. The amount of times people have asked me to pick this book up, I apologize that I haven't done so far, and that is Beyond Redemption by Michael R. Fletcher. Of all the books in the series that I get recommended, this is probably the series that I get told to read and review most. So folks, I'm almost certain I'm going to start this in January. I might actually even read it in Christmas this year, but I think I'm going to leave it for January to hopefully start off the year with a bang. Then we have some more Russian authors, and this is an author that I have not read yet, and that is The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. Bulgakov is one of the few Russian authors that I have not approached yet, and I've heard really great things about this book. I'm super psyched to read it. Then we have another fantasy series, and that is the Red Queen's War trilogy by Mark Lawrence. Mark Lawrence is an author that I really respect, and I do think he writes grimdark very well. I've read his Broken Empire trilogy a few years back, and while I did really like it, I did also have issues with it. I have heard that as he progresses in the world that he's built, because all of his trilogies or most of his trilogies are connected in the same world, they get even better and better. And I've heard amazing things about Red Queen's War. Super psyched to pick this series up because it's been on my list for so long and I'm ready to read some Mark Lawrence again. Then we have Frank Herbert. I want to continue on with my June journey. I was planning to pick up Children of June this year, and there were many times where I did actually pick it off my shelf, but then I never actually started reading it. And so without a doubt, I am going to pick it up in 2025 because I just want to progress further. Then we have a Japanese translated fiction book, and that is A Perfect Day to Be Alone by Nanae Toyama. And it's like contemporary literary fiction. It's very introspective. It's all about living life and living true to yourself, which always sounds like a good book to me. Then we have another series, and I think the name of the series is the name of the first book, and that is the Sandman Slim series by Richard Cardray. This is a Western. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I do like Westerns, and I would like to dabble back into the genre because I don't think I read one Western book this year, which is pretty crazy considering last year I think I read like 4 or 5. So I'm really keen to pick that series up because I've heard really good things about Cardray's writing. I also love the cover of these books, and based on what I've heard about the main character, I think it's going to be a series that I'm going to really enjoy. Then we have an author that many of you have recommended to me before. She's been on my list for a long while, and I think before I pick up her really large series, I'm going to start with some of her standalones. I'm curious if any of you have guessed it now, and that is Sorcerer's Legacy by Janny Wirtz, and then also To Ride Hell's Chasm. Both of them are standalones, and I believe they're completely disconnected from the other series that she's written, which is like a 10 plus book series, I believe it is. And I will eventually get to that because I do think I will really enjoy it. But for now, I just want to dabble in her writing. And so I'm going to start with her standalones. I'm super excited. I think she has the potential to become an author that I'm really going to like, but I'm trying not to hype her up too much for me because last time I did that, it was a complete mess. Greenbow Saga. Moving on. Then we have the GOAT, Ursula K. Le Guin. This year for me was a great year in terms of reading Ursula K. Le Guin's sci-fi, and I would like to continue on with that. I want to pick up The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin because, again, I've just heard really amazing things in terms of the themes and the characters. And I just think it's going to potentially become one of my favorites because one of my best friends is currently reading the book and she's been absolutely loving it. And she's been telling me kind of what she's been getting from it. And it just sounds like something that I'm going to absolutely love. Then we have another Japanese translated fiction, and this is by one of my favorite authors because I can confidently say now that this writer is one of my favorite authors, and that is Deep River by Shusaku Endo. I've read 2 of his books, and this will be the 3rd one that I pick up, and I am super psyched. This is very different to his other books because I believe this is like contemporary Japanese fiction, and I think there's like a thriller element. It's very different to Silence. It's very different to The Samurai. So I'm quite interested to see how he does other types of fiction as well. Then we have probably what will become one of my favorite authors of all time and is without a doubt already one of my favorite Russian authors, and that is that I want to read more stuff by Ivan Turgenev. On my list, I have Love and Other Stories. It's a short story collection that centers around like human relationships. And then the other one that I really want to read is Virgin Soil. I've heard that this was his most ambitious book. And from what I've heard, he did actually achieve that. Apparently it is his most kind of critically acclaimed. And I am just so excited to pick this book up because I think I'm going to absolutely devour it. Then we have more Russians. I'm not going to necessarily specify any particular books, but I do think I'll pick up more Dostoevsky. I might potentially try and read War and Peace next year as well. I have no idea if that's going to happen though. I think I'm probably going to read more of Tolstoy's short stories, and then maybe 2026 will be the year of War and Peace, but who knows at this point. Then we have another sci-fi book, and this is the Doomsday Book by Connie Willis. This is a sci-fi book that is actually set in a place where I grew up, so I'm quite interested in that. And I've also just heard really good things about the thematic work. It's centered around a period of history where there is a plague. I think it centers around like humanity and, you know, kind of what happens as a consequence of that. So I'm really excited to pick that up. Then we have another Japanese author, and that is the Makioka Sisters by Junichiro Tanizaki. And Tanizaki is an author that I am dying to read. Really, I am. Like, I'm just so excited to read her stuff because I have a feeling that I'm going to really love it. And the Makioka Sisters won a bunch of awards back in the day, and I've just heard amazing things about it that makes me think it's going to potentially become one of my favorite books, and I will definitely pick that up. Then we have a book that was actually on my TBR for this year, but that I actually never got to it, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I've heard so many people rave about this story. I've heard so many people rave about Madeline Miller's prose. And yeah, I've just got to read it, I think. I don't think typically what she writes is really up my street, but I'm willing to give it a go. I'm willing to give her writing a go. And yeah, I'm quite curious about that one. I'm curious if anybody's read this, and you know, if you know my reading taste quite well, like let me know if you think I will like it, because I'm actually quite curious what some of you folks think. And then we have someone who is definitely shaping up to become a favorite author of mine, and that is Robin Hobb. I will definitely be reading the Live Ship Traders trilogy in the year of 2025. It may even be that I end up picking the next series after that, but I think I don't want to overextend myself in terms of reading one author. So for now, I will just commit to the Live Ship Traders. Then we have a sci-fi book, and that is Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny. Now, this is a book that I talked about on my channel like 3 years ago, and I've owned the physical paperback for so long, and I just have not got to it. I've heard really great things about Zelazny's writing. I've heard that it's very philosophical, which if you know me, you know I love that stuff. I eat it up. And so I'm really keen to pick that up. Then we have KJ Parker. I'm going to pick up his Two of Swords trilogy. The reason why is because I've not really heard many people talk about that series. So I want to read one that like nobody else has really got an opinion on and just kind of take it as I read it. So I'm really excited to pick that series up. And then we have a standalone fantasy book, and that is The Book Eaters by Sunya Dean. This is a book that I'm really curious about because I genuinely have not heard one negative thing about it, which always makes me curious. I've heard great things about Dean's writing style as well, so it sounds like it could be a solid bet for me. It's also a standalone, so nothing too large to commit to. Then we have The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. This was a book that was recommended to me by one of you folks, and I was actually planning to read it in the year of 2024, but I ended up not picking it up, actually quite intentionally, because there was enough dark stuff happening in reality that I didn't really want to read it in that book, knowing what I know of that book. That's not to say that the dark stuff that's happening in reality is stopping in 2025, because it's not, but I think maybe I will be in a better position to pick it up, so it's on the list. Then we have an oldie but a goodie, and this is an author that I'm actually quite embarrassed to say I've never read, and that is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. This is my brother's favourite book of all time, or one of my brother's favourite books of all time. And yeah, I've never read it, and I've never really read Dickens. Like, I read Oliver Twist, in my defence actually, when I was quite young, but if you ask me to tell you anything about that book, I would not be able to tell you anything apart from the fact that the character is called Oliver Twist, like genuinely. So I would like to start my Dickens journey. Very, very excited to finally start reading one of the greats. Then we have some other pretty heavy hitters in terms of classics. We have The Count of Monte Cristo by Dumas. Now, it's interesting because I've actually read half of this book, and then like life got in the way and I stopped reading it, and I just never picked it back up. Not because I didn't like the book. I loved the book at the time that I was reading it. But when life gets in the way and then you have a particular memory attached to a book, it kind of puts you off the book. It's got nothing to do with the book. It's not the author's fault. It's completely just because your brain attaches it to a certain memory that maybe isn't a memory that you want to remember, if that makes sense. But I've gotten over that, and I'm going to finally pick up The Count of Monte Cristo and read it from beginning to end. As many of you know, The Three Musketeers is one of my favourite books of all time. Dumas is one of my favourite authors of all time, and I just have to pick it up. There is also a French adaptation that came out a few months ago that I really want to watch, but I think I'm going to read the book first and then watch the film. Then we have another heavy hitter, and this is a Spanish one, and that is Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. This is a book that I've owned for over 10 years, and I'm just really scared to pick it up because I have a very particular understanding about this book, and I just think I'm going to love it. But you know, when you have that wariness of picking something up that you think you're going to love, because there is that 1% chance that you might not love it and then it's just going to be a terrible experience. I'm trying to get over that now with this book, and I'm going to finally commit to it and finally pick it up. Then we have an indie author, and he's written a really interesting series that I did mention in one of my book hauls, I think it was last year, and that is the Legend of Saru series by Neil Saunders. This is very much influenced by like Japanese mythology, if I remember correctly. There's horror elements to it. It's grimdark. It's got dark fantasy, if I recall. And these covers of these books, and I will put a picture up, are some of the most stunning covers that I've ever seen. I love them. They are so beautiful. And I really, really want to pick this series up because I think it's going to be a series that I'm going to absolutely love. It's also like I've heard nobody really talk about it on YouTube or Reddit or anything. So could be one that could be good to recommend to others as well who are interested in the same stuff. We have two more left, and the next one we have is Moth Smoke by Mohsin Hamid. Mohsin Hamid, I believe, is a Pakistani author. I'm really keen to read more international fiction. I've been pretty good, I think, in the last year, like with my Japanese and Korean fiction that I've been picking up, but I would like to expand out to more countries in the world. And so this is a book that I heard really, really good things about, and I definitely want to pick that up. And then the last one on my list, and again, there will be more on this list, and I might not even get to all of these books and series, but this one I do really think I am going to try and prioritize, and this is a fantasy series called the Raven's Mark Trilogy by Ed McDonald. I want to shout out James in particular, one of my Patreons, because I've owned this series on ebook for so long, but I've just never got to it, to be completely honest. And we were talking about it recently. He said that it does some things in it that are really quite fresh to the genre. So I'm really keen to pick that up because I think McDonald is an author that I'm going to really enjoy. And I'm also really keen to go back into reading more grimdark. Like, I've missed reading grimdark, and I want to get back into reading more grimdark next year. So that's why there are quite a lot of grimdark fantasy series on this list. That actually brings me on to the final one. because there is one more series that I am debating picking up next year, and that is Malazan Book of the Fallen by Stephen Erickson. I think I am finally going to pick this series up. I think I'm going to space it out. I did ask on my Twitter recently, how you would recommend reading the series. Quite a lot of people gave me very different opinions, but I think I'm just going to do what's best for me, and that's spreading it out, because I know these books are very heavy and they're quite intense and they require you to remember a lot. And I think what I'm going to end up doing is read like a book a quarter, make lots of notes, and, speak to people who are kind of at the same point that I am in as well. So I'm so excited to pick that series up finally. I think that one is going to be very contingent on like how everything else is going in my life. Who knows whether I'll get to it? We'll see. So there we have it. Those are series and books across all genres that I would like to get to. Again, whether I do is a question mark, but these are all on my list, and these are all the ones that I'm, going to prioritize above other series. And yeah, probably at the end of next year, we'll kind of review if I did actually get to any of these series or all of these series, and that could be quite a fun video to do as well. So let me know down below if there are any series or books that you particularly want to get to. Are there any particular authors that you want to try or go back to as well? And let's take the conversation down below. Thanks for watching, folks. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next video. Stay safe, take care, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.